Introduce yourself.
My name is Alejandra. Um, I want to thank God for my salvation. I want to thank God for Pastor Manuel and Sister Lisa answering the call. Pastor Sunny first. I came to the Ministry of Victory Outreach in 2018 for the first time, and I had that encounter with the Holy Spirit and with God. Um, and since then, I fell in love with God. I backslid for a few years, and this time I came back. I came back to the Victory Outreach Southeast LA. I'm in the women's home right now for Southeast LA. I've been there for going on 5 months.
So, where are you from?
I'm from South Central LA.
What was it like growing up in?
But I got to South Central when I was 11 and a half. Before that, my parents lived in the valley when I was born. And it was a lot of moving though, like a lot of moving from different counties, different cities from when I was born to like the age of 11. My dad was a heroin addict and he used to beat my mom every day. So when my dad was in prison, my mom divorced him when I was 5. And then after that, it was just a lot of moving and a lot of abuse because I looked so much like my dad that my mom didn't like me. So until the age of 11, where my mom decided that I was, like something happened in our household and I had to leave my mom's. So I came to South Central with my brother, and that's when I came to my neighborhood. And just it was. I have very vague memories of it, but it just was, what I do remember is that when the street lights came on and everybody went home, my brother and I would go to the rocket and the slide in the play area of the park in my neighborhood, and that's where we would sleep. Um, After that, like it was just, it was survival, you know. I thank God that I had my brother to protect me, that he kept me safe from a lot of things um, that that could have happened to me, but didn't because God used him as my protector. Um,
How's your brother doing?
he's passed away, and he passed away in Indiana a few years back.
So how'd you do? So what was it like afterwards?
After I came to live with my brother, it was the gang life for us was survival, family, the family that we didn't have at home. That was that was what we learned, how to survive, how to get by every day. It was that was our family, that was our parents, that was who taught us. Respect, manners, the loyalty, the how to defend ourselves. Um, and just it was a lot of numbness because at that age is when I was introduced to a lot of drugs, you know for that to stay numb, to be able to function and survive without having any emotion behind it. um, at the age of 16 I went to YA, and because something happened uh, after my daughter passed away, I went to YA, and I didn't come out till I was 21.
What was your experience like in there?
Um, More fun and more fighting, you know. Um,
Particular memory that stands out?
Not really. It was all it was very vague, very vague. Because my daughter had just passed away, so something snapped inside of me when that happened, and it took me a lot of years to come back from that. So, and then after that, I was out for a little bit, and then I went back to prison, but this time I went to a state prison. And then I got out of that prison and I went to the federal prison system. And that's when I had my first encounter with God, because that's when I knew that God had his hand on my life. You know, he sat me there for about almost 6 years, 5 years and 11 months. It took me to win an appeal in the Supreme Court in Washington. And because God had his hand on my life back then, and that's one of the reasons why I'm here right now, because if not, I would still be in an FCI somewhere.
So, how would you describe your first encounter with God, His presence, the Holy Spirit?
With his presence, Lord, I always believed in God. I always believed that that I did not question, you know, like even when my daughter passed away, I figured that he knew better and he knew why I couldn't have a little girl at that time, so he took her. I never questioned anything that happened to me, because I knew that like deep in my heart, I knew he had a reason for what he did, you know, for what he allowed. But my first real encounter with God was at a home convention when I was in the home in Boyle Heights 6 years ago. And I was baptized in the Holy Spirit. Well, before that, I was going to a Spanish ministry in between terms. And I had like an encounter, like I would pray and I would fast and I would have, you know, the spiritual warfare, but never really that encounter, that real encounter, like that to where God spoke to me, or where God, you know, said, like, was tangible to me. That happened at the home convention when I was baptized with the Holy Spirit. Before that, I always used to think that everybody that spoke in tongues or everybody that the Spirit slayed was just BSing, you know, like I thought it was fake until it happened to me.
So, what did you think about how speaking in tongues sounded when you first encountered?
I just remember the shaking, like my jaw starting to shake, and me not able to control my tongue. And that's all I remember. After that, I don't really remember. You know, but I do know that something shifted inside of me that day. And from that day forward, like I know that that his presence didn't leave me. That no matter where I went or what I did, he had his hand upon me.
Can you feel like the change that God is putting you through, like your development? What differences have you noticed?
That's a lot of changes, a lot of changes. Well, first and foremost, I'm not exhausted every day because I have to fight the world. You know, like I'm not in survival mode anymore. I'm not numb to everything and anything anymore, you know? Like I'm able to feel joy when I see my grandbabies, when I see my kids, when before I didn't feel anything.
How many kids do you have now?
I have 3 now.
How are they doing?
My oldest is still struggling. We're praying and fasting for him. And my second one's in the Army. And my third one just graduated high school.
Amen. That sounds. Amen. So, how did you find out about the women's home in Sarah?
It's funny because so back when I was going to church with my family, there was one of my friends that is like a sister to me, and I used to go get her, and I would take her keys from her and take her to church, whether she wanted to or not, like I would take her to church. Um and then but we were still out there doing what we were doing in the neighborhood. um and one day she jumped out of my car and she landed in the women's home in Boyle Heights. She, that girl's the director of the Sela Women's Home today. And so when I got out of jail, the time before this time that I got out of jail, and I was out there and I had backslid, I called her and I told her I was tired. And she told me that God had called her to be a women's home director and that they were in the makings of opening the women's home. So I was in communication with her every day, calling her every day, waiting for the women's home to open. And when they were just waiting for the beds to come in, God happened, to allow me to go sit down for a little while longer in LA County Jail again. And I was, but even from there, I would call her, like every chance I got, I called her to see how that process was going, how everything was going. And I kept telling her, like, okay, well, don't give my bed up. Make sure you hold my bed because I'm coming, whether I get out today or 10 years from now, like whether I get out in my next court date or 10 years from now, I'm coming to the women's home. And so she held my bed. And when I got released, she picked me up and I came to the women's home.
So what was it like knowing the home director? Like, you knew her very well back then? Yeah,
we've been friends for years.
Okay.
I don't call her my friend, I call her my sister. Her mom is my mom. I don't have a relationship with my mom the way I would like to. So her mom has been my mom for a lot of years.
So what's it like being in the women's home right now? Are you a staff?
I wouldn't say I'm a staff, but I help her when if help is needed, and I'm there to, I'm available.
So you must deal with like a lot of personalities. How would you, and what kind of experience would you have?
It's the hardest thing for me because I don't normally have acquaintances with females. I don't normally hang out with women. The only times that I've ever been around women like that has been either in prison or in jail.
So, do you have any future plans, goals?
Well, the last camp meeting, this year's camp meeting, we went to camp meeting. I had the privilege to go to camp meeting, and God spoke to me a few times, not one time, but a few times. And because the first time he spoke to me, he gave me my calling, and the second time he spoke to me, he gave me confirmation, and I still said, no, God, like no, I can't do this, And so he had to slap me around a few times and give me confirmation again. And apparently I've been called to go to the DTC, so that would be my next step after the home.
Yes. So, can you see yourself becoming a home director?
I serve a miraculous God. The God I serve is able to do impossibles. And if my sister was able to become a home director, then I know that God can do it through me as well.
Do you have any final shout outs, thank yous?
I do. I want to thank my directors, for going through the struggle with me, Brother Renee and Sister Violet. Like they're there 24/7 going through the struggle with us. And I've gone through, I think, the most changes than any of the other girls have gone through in that home. So, and they've, they've stuck it through with me through each and every one of them, no matter what it's been, So I really want to thank them.
Okay, thank you, Sister Alejandra. Any final words you want to say to the family or final advice you'd like to share to anybody who's listening?
I want to thank my kids and my grandbabies for giving me reason to be here and do this.
Okay, thank you, Sister Alejandra, for your time, for doing this.
Thank you.